Hello, everyone, and welcome to the contribution to the symposium with the paper titled The Opinions of Future EFL Teachers of Young Learners Towards English Pronunciation and Accents. I'm Sara Albaladejo from the University of Murcia, and I'm going to be presenting this paper as part of the symposium. First of all, I would like to briefly introduce the study and also give you a short foundation or base with the literature review that I used to take the main ideas for the study. So first of all, pronunciation has had erratic interest, meaning that most researchers focused on grammar, vocabulary, than on pronunciation, which has had different types of interest depending on the era that we are talking about. So this means that there's been some shifting in goals and in methods. Some people thought that maybe the direct method was better, or the indirect method, or the communicative approach. So it meant that it's been some sort of disconnection between teaching methods and the approaches, more like theoretical than practical. It's been scant research, although nowadays we are seeing that Cinderella is turning into the belle of the party, let's say. So more researchers are taking interest in this unexplored field. So one of the main important things is that pronunciation is linked to identity. Our identity shows in the way we speak, in the way we pronounce some words, in our accent. It tells where we are from. It tells how we feel. It tells about our beliefs when we are speaking about something. So it's a clear way of showing identity and interpreting and having a um, having an idea of who we're speaking with and who this person is producing a strong affective response, like meaning that the way we say things and the accents that we have might produce this type of reaction in someone, like someone from the Bronx or someone from a very high brow place in Britain. It doesn't have the same perception or the same effect in the person who is speaking to or who is receiving the message. Pronunciation does not adhere to a specific model, even though teachers really apparently want to find the ideal pronunciation model, being general American or received pronunciation. But the real deal and the reality about it is that there is no specific model, there is no perfect accent. So that's the way it is. Like we pronounce things depending on where we're from, but also have um, influences from the people we meet and the places we go. So even though this is common sense, pronunciation still is subject to the nativeness principle. So basically, believing that native speakers speak better than non-native speakers, and that is something that it it's always affected non-native speakers being language learners or teachers of the foreign language. However, we are seeing that a new concept, or a fairly new concept, being intelligibility, is being embraced lately. So intelligibility, it's acquiring proficiency, so we are understood and we can understand what other people are saying without focusing so much on the native-like accent. So we are not striving to achieve a native-like accent, but we are achieving to be understood with our own accent. So instead of accent reduction, let's say we are using accent addition. Then there is a mismatch between teaching and reality, meaning that more often than not, we find teachers still focusing on native speakers and as models of the language, and we are not, or they normally teachers are not paying attention to the fact that pronunciation and speaking is used in international contexts where most people are actually non-native speakers as well. So there is a lack of awareness of the reality of today's use and needs of students and people in general. So there is also an urgent necessity or need for training and teacher development so they become aware of that reality and can actually um, work towards making their students also aware of the new needs of this world that we live in. So the present study had the following objectives. First of all, we wanted to examine the opinions of Spanish EFL university students of young learners about English pronunciation and accents. Then explore the relationships between the attitude of Spanish EFL university students of young learners towards pronunciation and its teaching, and to design and validate an instrument to collect the necessary data. First of all, we realized that there wasn't a specific questionnaire or tool to gather all the information that we needed. So drawing on different questionnaires that had been already published with the basically we asked the authors whether we could modify those items, and we had access to the different questionnaires. We generated our own item pool, drawing from those other studies. Then we conducted some statistical tests to validate the content and also the construct. We sent the preliminary questionnaire to different experts in the field, and they gave us feedback basically regarding some wording and adding another category to the Likert scale. Then we conducted a pilot study with 62 Spanish university undergraduates preparing to become EFL teachers at primary level. And then we got our results. The questionnaire, we had to change the construct. We had to go from 3 constructs to 2, but in the end we arrived to 20 item 2-factor questionnaire, which was acceptable in every test that we conducted. The results regarding the questions, Spanish EFL university students' attitudes towards English pronunciation and accent, we realized that what we had already guessed, that students, future teachers, still wanted to be identified as native speakers, and they would like their students to reach native-like accent as well. This is tied in with the belief that they think that if they have a native accent, they are going to get better jobs and better pay. And this has always been the case in Spain and in most European countries. What we believe, we idolized the native speaker because it's what is always been taught to us at university, and since teachers are trained at university, that's the first thing that they learn, and that's the thing that they replicate. Then the relationship between the attitudes and the teaching, it's of course that they have a negative attitude towards having a Spanish accent. They don't like being identified as a Spanish accent. They would like to be regarded as native speakers. They see it as basically like a badge of honor. There is some knowledge about the need to strive for intelligibility, but again, that awareness is very faint, very vague, and the strongest feeling is that they have to pronounce like a native speaker. So there are some conflicting opinions about the ideal pronunciation for Spanish students, but what is clear is that they still prefer, let's say, that nativeness principle. So they prefer, the conclusion of the studies is they still prefer native-like accents, and that they seem determined to teach according to this nativeness principle, which is a drawback in today's society. So there is an urgency to teach them and become aware of the communicative needs of today's society, today's world, and also to make an informed choice, meaning that if a student wants to strive for a native like accent, then that's totally fine. But they must know that there is something called intelligibility, and that doesn't require to have a British accent or an American accent. They can still have their own accent and be completely intelligible and able to communicate with other speakers. And they have to realize that it's not something to feel embarrassed about, but actually to take some pride in the fact that if you have a non-native accent, it means that you're learning another language, and that should be recognized as something positive. Thank you very much for listening to me, and if you have any questions, we'll be answering those later on. Thank you.